the land on which we meet today, and would like to pay our respects to elders past and present. Normally, we'd start an event like this by letting you know the essential things like where you'll find the bathrooms, where to get a wine, put your phones on silent and all that sort of stuff. But we hope that you have that all in hand and have come prepared with your wine or gin or soft drink or whatever you're going to join us with tonight. The session is being recorded and it will be circulated following the end of tonight's webinar. And depending on the device that you're on, you should be able to look in the right-hand corner of your screen for the option to switch between speaker view or gallery view. Now, we love gallery view because you'll also see all of your friends and colleagues who are on this call with you. We'll run a few polls throughout the evening tonight as well. These may not be visible for everybody, depending on how you're joining us tonight. So we'll also read them out loud, and you can feel free to post your answer in the chat room. And we will also post the results in the chat room of those polls tonight as well. Please be patient with us. This is our second online event, and we have our fingers crossed that the technology gremlins stay away, although I did just have a little hiccup, so hopefully it'll be all right. But should something go astray or feel clumsy or clunky, then we really just ask for your patience and forgiveness, and we'll keep moving through. Feel free to use the chat function to make a comment, ask a question, or simply let us know how we're going tonight. There will be 15 minutes after Ruth's presentation for questions from the audience. So please use the raise your hand function in the control bar of your Zoom screen. And when Ruth says your name, you'll need to unmute yourself and then ask your question. If you're online on social media tonight, please feel free to tag us in your comments or share or screen shares using the hashtag Winnovationsa. I'm going to introduce the tech team behind the scenes tonight, and our amazing board member, Cindy Flower, who will take over if anything goes wrong at my end. She's the person that's responsible for getting us all online tonight. So well done, Cindy, fabulous work. She'll also be monitoring the chat box and bring any important points to my attention. Hayley, another board member, is our social media director, and she is on socials and getting the chat happening in the chat box. And I'm Tanya, for those of you who haven't met me before, founder of DNA Security Solutions and longtime board member of Women in Innovation SA. A huge thanks goes to our sponsors this evening. Without their constant support, as an organisation, we wouldn't be able to continue delivering to you all. So our sponsors tonight and throughout the year are UniSA, Bendigo Bank, FIT, Department of Environment and Water, Deloitte, and Zonte's Footsteps. So thanks to you all for making this available for tonight for everybody. Women in Innovation are undertaking some market research at the moment, and before we get started, we're going to just do a quick poll to help us understand our community a little bit more. So I'm going to hand over to Cindy, who will take us through that.
Thanks, Tanya. Yes, for those who joined us last week, we asked a specific question so as we could understand who our community is a bit better. We have a different question this week, just launching it now. You should see it on your screen. I'll leave the poll open for 90 seconds and then I will post the results in the chat box. But for those that may not be able to see it because of the device they're on, it asks, how important is it to you to be able to actively support other women who are doing amazing things? And the options are very unimportant, somewhat unimportant, somewhat important, and very important. So we've just got about another minute on that poll if you can complete it for me. And then, like I said, I'll post the results in the chat box so that I don't interrupt the flow of the session. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks, Cindy. Okay, I'd now like to introduce our guest speaker for tonight, Ruth Morgan. Now, apart from the fact that Ruth was also on the board of Women in Innovation a number of years ago with us, Ruth is also an inspiring and experienced career wellbeing coach. Ruth helps people to evaluate their performance and optimise their wellbeing. Ruth draws on her 25 years of experience in executive recruitment and career transition to teach us how to set up and introduce strategies to enable healthy, sustainable, and importantly, enjoyable careers. Ruth believes a career should add to your life and not detract from it, making it essential to align your career with your passion and your purpose. So tonight, Ruth is going to share with us how to develop a strong mind-body connection to unlock your full potential, give us strategies which will enable healthy, sustainable, high performance, and help us align our career with our passion and purpose. And so it's my very big pleasure to welcome Ruth and hand over to you for tonight's webinar.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you to all the board members from Women in Innovation. It's such a pleasure to be a part of the organisation again and sharing, hopefully, you know, what will be highly valuable information to all of you, because career wellbeing is a really important message that I think we need to focus on a lot more. And having been in the recruitment industry for 25 plus years, you know, I've seen the impact that being in the wrong career and the right career can have on your well-being, your family's well-being. It just has that flow-on effect. So briefly, a little bit about me and why I'm focusing in on this space, why it's my passion. You know, and it starts from childhood, growing up in a household where I observed, you know, a parent who wasn't happy in their job, and what you suppress, you come home and express. So, you know, the rest of the family certainly felt the impact of that stress, and, you know, it had flow-on ramifications within the family, and in particular in relation to health. So, you know, it started very early on. And, you know, when you're looking for your calling or what your purpose is, I do get people to go back and join the dots from their past, because all the clues to our career and what puts us in a great career that's, you know, sets us on our path are in our past. And, you know, I've had my challenges in my career as well. So I've certainly learnt a lot of lessons along the way. Yes, I'm here as a career coach, but that doesn't mean that my career has gone perfectly every step of the way. I've had big patches of success, worked for the same company for, or the same directors for 20 years. But then, you know, I've had things that, little challenges and messages that have come along as well. So what we're going to look at today, though, and I'll just share my screen with you because I've got a bit of a slideshow here, is career wellbeing. So let me just open that up a little bit. So career wellbeing, I was introduced really to that concept because we hear a lot about wellbeing, but there's a book called Wellbeing and the 5 Essential Elements, and I can put that up or email that to you afterwards, that was written, Gallup is an organisation that does global research, and they researched 150 countries to find out what contributes to people's overall well-being. So it was 98% of the population that they surveyed, and these were the components that they came up with. And what they recognised was that career well-being has the biggest impact on your overall well-being, which you can probably relate to. You know, if you're stressed at work, you go home and you talk about work. So you're still living that experience. You know, if things aren't going well in your career, absolutely it's going to have an impact on your financial well-being. And, you know, today it's been proven with neuroscience that there is that strong mind-body connection, and the thoughts that we're having impact our physiology on a cellular level. And there's a lot of work around that now, and I'll refer to a few people who have done extensive research in that area. So career wellbeing is quite critical, and they showed that you know, if you've got career well-being, you're more than twice as likely to be thriving in your life overall. So it's a really good place to start when you're looking at your well-being. So I just want you to quickly check in and, you know, do a bit of a visualization. Take yourself to a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday night. You've just had a fabulous weekend, and all of a sudden your mind starts to turn to the week ahead and you're thinking of going back into work. And just pay attention to how your body is reacting to that, because that could be an indication as to where you're at in terms of your career well-being. Because, as I said, your thoughts impact your body. So your body will have a reaction to that statement. Now, before I flick to the next slide, I want you to tell me, and just write in the chat box, what comes to mind when you think of well-being, the word well-being. Just quickly share with me, you know, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? I just want to get an understanding of what people's thoughts are in relation to that. Great. Fantastic. Emotional health. Good to see that it's not just all about exercise and nutrition. Cool. All right. I'm just going to share my screen with you ladies again. Let's have a look. All right. So you can just hear the rain outside. It's a great night to be at a networking event inside, isn't it? So there's a difference between wellness and well-being, and wellness fundamentally is that the health, the exercise, the nutrition, which all flow across into well-being, obviously, you know, and there's a lot of evidence in terms of nutrition and clarity of thought, for example, and exercise and, you know, building our resilience. But what we're looking at tonight is on the right-hand side of the screen, you know, well-being, which is made up, or we have to look at the mind, the body and the soul. You know, it's that holistic view of what well-being is. And I think sometimes people have this view that well-being is about being happy all the time. But if we're chasing a fantasy that well-being is this nirvana of having a great body, having all of our areas of our life functioning well at the same time and being happy, we're chasing a fantasy. And when we chase a fantasy, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. So we really need to have a balanced perspective. And, you know, we talk a lot about work-life balance, and I don't think it's so much work-life balance. I think it's about having a balanced perspective on work and life, because there's always two sides to the coin, and we're going to have positives and negatives going on in various areas of our life, you know, from time to time. So let's have a look. What I want you to pause and do at the moment is, and Cindy, you can launch the first main poll now, please. Which area would make the biggest difference to your career well-being? So if everyone could just fill that one out. You know, these are, and I have a career audit that if you would like me to send you that career audit so you can see where you're at, you know, my details will be up at the end and you'll be able to email me and I'll send that through to you. But these are some of the key areas and can be the key indicators that if things aren't right in these areas, then that could indicate that there's something amiss with our career well-being. So the biggest, I think, obstacle to our own career well-being is ourselves. You know, we get in our own way of this stuff. We quite often sabotage our long-term goals for a short-term fix. But why do we do that? You know, we do that when we don't have a bigger meaning or purpose in our life, when we've lost sight of that bigger vision of what we're here to do, and we're not on our path and we're lost. So we distract ourselves with a quick fix, but then all of these areas start to play up or start to indicate to us that something's not quite right. So these are some of the signs that you'll get when your career well-being is not in good shape. All right, Cindy, can you share the results of that poll, please? If you've got that ready to go.
Sorry about that. So I will just close it. The end result,
yeah,
that we had 9% say energy,
right,
36% say feeling valued,
yeah,
9% say sleep,
right,
no one said resilience,
Right.
And 45% said having more meaning and purpose. I will cut and copy that into the chat room for you.
That's fantastic. Excellent. And these are all things that you can work on. So, you know, that's awesome. The first sign is recognizing what is the main thing. And I want you to have a think now about what's one thing you can do to dial up that area that you've just selected. So have a think, you know, if it's sleep, what's the first thing that you can do? Is it about committing to going to bed at the same time? Is it about stopping, you know, looking at your phone an hour before you go to bed so that your mind is settled? You know, with meaning and purpose, what's the first thing you can do to start to identify? Well, the first thing is you're here, and I will share a little tool at the end that will help you on your path there. So that's great that was one of the biggest areas. But have a think about what's the first thing you can do, and then I want you to pick up your phone and open your schedule and put that first task in your phone, because if we don't take action straight away, you'll get off of this webinar and you'll, you know, go back into life and nothing's going to change. So really think about that first step, and I want you to put it in your phone right now. You know, what's the first thing to do? Is it setting alarm to get up early and exercise? Is it that you're going to do a shopping list so that you've got the right nutrients coming in so that you've got more energy? And we'll talk about energy tonight. Alrighty, so the first area, where have we gone? First area that I was indicating was the mind. And there's so much we could talk about, but we have only got 20 minutes. So what I picked out was one of the biggest things that has a major impact on your career well-being. Because if you're not congruent with this, then potentially you could be sabotaging your career, which then has a massive impact on your well-being. So we've all heard that expression, love what you do. And these guys clearly must love what they do. I'm imagining that is photoshopped, that picture, because I just hate to think about how in reality that could happen. And I'm scared of heights, so it always freaks me out. It's amazing. I'm just thinking about that and I'm already getting knots in my stomach. But it's you know, one of their values might be adventure or working outdoors or adrenaline. Who knows? So what gives us the biggest sense of fulfillment, but also can cause us the biggest sense of frustration, stress, and disease in our career is being in a career that's not aligned with our top values. So, you know, one of the key things you can start off by doing, and I'll share a website with you in a second that has a fantastic values assessment on there that you can do for free. So getting clear on what your top values are. And my top values are careers, growth, and health. And when I recognized that they were my top 3 values, I, within 6 months, started my business. And prior to that, I'd had a dream to start my business for 7 years and had not taken any action. And, you know, I'd been in a good career, but my performance had been all over the place in the last few years because, you know, something was amiss and I didn't know what it was. So our values are very important. And Dr. John Demartini is the person who, this is his life work, looking at values. So if you go to his website and do his values determination assessment, that will help you identify what your top values are. And in my coaching business, I then help people draw out specifically what their career values are. But that is a great start. It's a very powerful start. And what this ladder shows you is that when you're in a career that's in line with your top values, you are more resilient. You've actually got more attention and retention. So you actually perform better. But from a well-being perspective, here you go, you have more energy. And what I have noticed in the people that I coach is that they actually sleep better at night. So they're still having challenges, you know, just because you're doing what you love, as I'm sure, you know, the ladies on the board will attest, it doesn't mean that life is smooth sailing. You're still going to have challenges, but because you've got this bigger vision that you're working towards and because you are doing what you love, you bounce back from those setbacks a lot faster and it awakens your natural born leader. So here's the bad news down here is that when your career is not in line with your values, You are going to be frustrated, obviously, but you're going to have low energy. And the flip side is you're not going to be sleeping very well. So all of this has that flow-on effect to your well-being. And I mean, to take it to a whole new level, you know, the work by Deepak Chopra, Carolyn Miss, Dr. Joe Dispenza all show that neurologically, when we're in a job, going to work, we're not happy with what we're doing, we're suppressing that, you know, it creates these emotions that we're suppressing in our body. And emotions are energy in motion, and that energy has to surface somehow. So it can lead to illness. And there's many cases around of people, you know, being stubborn, staying in a job they hate, burying those emotions, and it popping up in various illnesses. So this is such an important part of the equation for career wellbeing. Now, the body, let me have a look where I'm up to. So Cindy, if you could please launch the next poll. How many hours, I think, do you sit each day? Which is something that's high on my priority list to try and change. I'd love to hear your responses shortly. Look, the most powerful thing I've learned about the body is to listen to my own body. I've, you know, several years ago, about 4 years ago, I was training for 18 months with the dream of competing in a bodybuilding competition. Now, I was under 2 coaches, you know, training to the nth degree, doing everything right. And eventually everything just plateaued. And when I stopped that training, I discovered that I had thyroid problems, and it was the start of menopause. I then put on 20 kilos. All of this stuff started to happen. And I bounced around from practitioner to practitioner. And my one learning, looking back at all of that, is I wish I'd have learnt to tune in and listen to my body and see what was actually going on, because your body will tell you, you know, and there's a biochemical reaction that goes on, and you can practice this skill. You know, if you just close your eyes right now and in your mind say, my name is, and say what your name is, and then just notice if there's anything going on in your body. And then say, my name is Steve, or somebody else's name, and just notice if there's a reaction in your body. And this can take a little bit of practice, but really just tuning in to that biochemical reaction that's going on in your body. And so you can ask yourself questions when it comes to what's the right thing to do, what's the right thing to eat, you know, even down to the activity you need to be doing. But I wanted to share something that Brendan Burchard, who's written High Performance Habits, oh, lovely, thank you. All right, how many hours do you sit in total? 1 to 5? Gee, that's pretty good. 5 to 8 hours, 50% of us are sitting for 5 to 8 hours, and 21% 8 hours plus. I mean, it is staggering, isn't it, really? And I'm quite surprised sometimes how many hours I sit down, even though I'm aware that I want to be standing up. So, you know, sitting, they say, is the new smoking. And there's been a lot of research on the impact of sitting, but you know what I've noticed working from home is just how stiff the body gets when you're sitting. It's, you know, you're not challenging the body, and so those muscles aren't working as hard as they need to. So I've got a stand-up desk that I use. I set an alarm on my phone every 50 minutes to get up and have a walk. I'm doing stretches in the middle of the day now. And look, even when I was working in an office, I would still do stretches in the office. And I think these days that's perfectly acceptable. But Brendan Burchard says one of the things that really drains our energy is rushing from meeting to meeting. And, you know, we go just from one meeting to another without actually contemplating or getting ourselves in a state ready for that next meeting. So his little tip is called release tension and set intention. And he calls it making master transitions. So before you go into your next meeting, just to close your eyes for a minute or two and just repeat the word release and command your body to release the tension, and then set your intention of what energy you want to bring to that next meeting or activity. And that just helps you mentally and physically move from one thing to another in your day without taking all that baggage with you from one meeting to another. Now, I'm just noticing the time is moving by very quickly. So I do want to move on to the mind-body connection. So this is a little diagram that just shows you how, you know, an event can cause us to have certain chemicals created in our body based on our perception or our belief of what's going on, that then generates emotions and that then causes a reaction. So just think about stress, for example, you know, and like I was looking at those guys sitting on the building, oh my God, you know, that certainly, I wasn't even there, but it caused a chemical reaction that caused an emotion, and, you know, palms were sweating and the stomach was going around. And so, you know, I wouldn't have been a very confident person in that state. So one thing we can do is firstly help work on our emotions and change our emotions. And I've got an emotional release tool that is highly effective that I can send you if you're interested, that is takes 2 to 3 minutes to help shift those emotions. And another thing is to change your perception. So when we look at challenges, you know, challenges just come along to get us back on our path in life. So whenever we're out here and we're being challenged, just have a think and ask, where am I not living my values? Where am I off my path from my purpose? Because then it brings us back on our path, but it just flips your perspective of challenges that come up in your life so that you're a little bit more resilient during those challenges. Now, here's the biggie. For those who are looking for more meaning and purpose in their life, so I use this coaching tool. It's the Ikigai model, which is the Japanese model for finding meaning and purpose in life. And what you can do is go through and list all of the skills that you've got that you're good at, the strengths that you enjoy using. I call it deconstructing your skill set, because quite often we see ourselves under our job banner. And what we want to do is take that career banner away and list all of the things that you enjoy doing. And then here you're going to list what you love, what your values are, what you're passionate about, what causes you're interested in. Could be anything. Now, here's the big one. What does the world need? Now, what I'm talking about there is, what problems do you solve? And that's what will have you feeling valued, making sure that you're valued in your career because you're helping contribute to solving problems. Now, when you can align all of those things and get paid for it, that's when you achieve Ikigai in your career, meaning and purpose. So this model is available all over the internet, but it is a great tool to start brainstorming and looking at why, you know, how to get the most meaning and purpose out of your career. And having been in the recruitment industry, I can really help you brainstorm and flesh some of those ideas out. But that is an awesome tool if you're looking for more meaning and purpose to start having a look at. And then finally, one of the things I want to share with you, and I've been doing a bit of heart healing with a lady here in Adelaide who's amazing. And, you know, we're very much in our heads in business, aren't we? Very analytical, always problem solving, always thinking. And we're losing connection with our heart, with our passion. And a simple technique that she's taught me is simply to put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and just ask the question. And I quite often do this when I'm doing marketing or I'm about to have a coaching session with someone, you know, and it really just helps you connect in with your heart again. Because I think the thing, when we're in our head all the time, we're disconnecting with what's going on in our body. And, you know, we're quite often under a lot of pressure and being forced to just keep moving forward. And we do have to take time to stop and reconnect with what's actually going on through it with our body. And I think reconnect with our heart. And, you know, we do a bit too much thinking up here and not enough thinking down here. So to bring in a bit of that balance can make a huge difference to how you feel in your career and give you that meaning and purpose that you're looking for. So I think I'm on time. I think I've probably skipped half of the notes that I made to talk about tonight, but the important thing is that we throw over to you, back to you, Tanya, and see if there's any questions. Oh, you're on mute, Tanya.
There we go.
That's it.
Thanks, Ruth. Thank you. That was fabulous. So yes, we'd like to open it up to questions. Is there anybody out there that's got a burning question? If you'd like to raise your hand, and we should be able to see you. So Ruth, I'll start with just one little question.
Sure.
Just with what you were talking about there, about putting your hand on your heart and breathing 3 times, and then you ask the question. What are the sorts of questions that you would like we should be asking of ourselves during that process? Perhaps give us a couple of examples.
Sure thing. I mean, if I'm conflicted with priorities and what to do, that's one question. If I'm thinking about how to communicate with somebody or what I want to express, and I'm in my head and I'm getting lost with trying to get an outcome, for example, I'll tune back in to ask myself, what do I need to focus on? What's the most important thing here? And before I go into a coaching session, is how do I need to be in this coaching session for this person? So it really depends what you're about to do, but you can use it any time. And I'm doing some work with another organisation at the moment called Real Time Heartfelt, and they use a similar technique, but it's more just a visualization of, it's just really to help you connect to your heart. So you don't have to put your hand on your heart. If you're in a public space and it's a little bit embarrassing, then you can just visualize and really think about your heart and, take your attention there.
Right, fabulous, thank you. I think that's very helpful. It helps to put us into context for us all.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, are there other questions from our audience that we have tonight? Come on, ladies, I'm sure that there is something that you would love to ask Ruth, or perhaps maybe expand on something a little bit more that she's spoken about.
Tanya, in the chat room, there's a few people that seem to have resonated with the model that Ruth presented.
Yes, with the Ikigai model.
Yes. Yeah, maybe we could cover that a little bit more.
Yeah, Ruth, is there an opportunity to expand a little bit more on that?
Sure, and I think, don't just restrict it to work-related skills or passions. And when you're going through that exercise, don't try and formulate an answer. This is a brainstorming exercise, and you just never know what pieces are going to fit together in the puzzle. And so think about the skills that you use outside of work as well, because that might trigger a thought. But if you're really looking at tapping into how you find meaning and purpose in your career and align it with that, as I said, one of the key things to do as well is that joining the dots exercise. Going back through your life, looking at the major life events and looking at what were the learnings, what were they there in my life to help me develop or strengthen? Because major life events or people, very influential people in your life, your mum, your dad, are there to for a reason, to help teach you lessons, to equip you on your path. So the clues are all there. And what that can do is actually free you up, because when you've got somebody or an experience in your past that can keep you feeling, like a victim or emotionally stuck, and we're looking at it through that lens of negativity, when all of a sudden we reframe that and flip that perspective and see actually the blessings and the learnings that were in that situation, then you don't feel that resentment towards that person or that situation anymore. And it just sort of relinquishes all of those other events between then and now. So it can just free up a lot of emotion. It can make you exceptionally grateful then for those people in your life, I mean, I'm very grateful to my dad, although it wasn't an easy family environment to be in. You know, he's one of the big catalysts that has set me on my path, because I grew up thinking, why can't people be happy in their career? You know, and for me, it was heartbreaking to see people not enjoying their career, and then to see the impact on people's health. So look for those little gems in your past, because the answers are all there. And then one exercise to do is just start writing, my purpose is, and then just, you know, put down whatever comes up and just keep repeating that process. And that will, you know, it's amazing what pops up from the subconscious to the conscious mind as you're actually writing. So pay attention, don't ignore what comes up, and just, you know, keep writing, keep free flowing with the writing, and information will come to you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ruth. Michelle Pedersen. Michelle, you've got a question that you would like. Great. Please go ahead and ask Ruth.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you for your insights so far. I can never hear this type of information enough, because I revisit it every so often. You're very much talking about self-reflection. I'm wondering what role it plays getting feedback from those in your life to add to that mission and purpose understanding.
Yeah, spot on, Michelle. That can be an amazing process. And I was coaching somebody the other week who I set that task to, and she reached out to a number of people and got this amazing feedback from them about what difference she'd made in their life. Because quite often we've got the blinkers on, and, you know, we're looking at ourselves through our lens of all the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And so it's like when two people grow up in the same household and have a totally different perspective about what went on, because they've got different beliefs and different lenses that they're viewing the world through. So it is really important to get that balanced perspective. So to reach out to people, and in Simon Sinek's book, Find Your Why, he's got an exercise in there that's got a list of questions that you can email, you know, your friends, family, and that will provide some very insightful information back to you.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thanks, Michelle, for that. Hayley, you've got a question. Did you want to pose that?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hiya, Hayley. Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Ruth. It's really good tonight. I've been sort of badly kind of tweeting and listening at the same time.
Thank you.
My question was, I know that we deal with a lot of people in this space who have a really strong sense of drive and passion and purpose. So they might have started their own enterprise or invented something, or you know, be doing something incredibly cool that can almost take over your life or consume you. So, you know, you talk earlier about how do you balance and find something that gives you purpose. What if you found it? How do you stop it from taking over your life to keep that balanced perspective?
Excellent question. And it really depends where you're up to in your business as well. But one of the things that I've learned is that you have different seasons in your business and in your life and in your career. And we need to recognize that. Like, we can't just keep going at 100% of the time, you know. So there's going to be these moments, and for me, COVID was a beautiful winter because it made me retreat and actually go inward and get even clearer on my purpose and create something, you know, my Career Clarity program that is really what I'm all about. So, you know, you've got to recognize that there's different seasons. And yes, there might be, I mean, you know, for a good 18 months when I started my business, it was flat out. And the thing is, luckily when you're doing what you love, you do have more energy, but you do need to make sure that's sustainable as well. So it is very important to still put some boundaries in place. And for me, one of the things that I did was make sure in the morning, I've got a morning routine that makes sure that I'm living my top values before I even start work, because then I feel like I've given back to me and I've invested in my energy and well-being before I start my day. So I think, you know, going back to that energy bucket, make sure you're putting things in your energy bucket at the same time through self-care, and just, you know, healthy practices, whatever it works for you. You've got to, you know, do that energy analysis to work out what feeds you energy and what drains your energy, and, you know, put some boundaries in place. But also, I think, you know, that perspective around different seasons in business is a really good one, because I started to feel, oh my God, something's wrong. I'm being really lazy. I should be really productive. And it's like, for God's sake, you've just, you know, been pedal to the metal for 2 years. If you can't take 3 months off now and really, you know, invest back into some well-being, when can you? So I think of it that way as well, and allow yourself to have different seasons in your business.
Fabulous. Thanks, Ruth. I think there's some real gold in all of that. And I must say, I'm with you. I sort of, I needed the world to stop it for a little bit, because I had been going at 1,000,000 miles an hour for many, many years. And I think as I'm sharing that with more and more people, I'm finding that they also needed things to stop and just take a breath and a break. And I'm sure that we're all on here for the same reason. You know, that allowing yourself that opportunity to do that with people that are always so purpose-driven and busy and overachievers, it is really difficult to allow yourself that time, and difficult to give yourself permission to do that. So I think that's an amazing, you know, that's really an amazing thing that we can give ourselves.
And I think, Tanya, in that regard as well, like, you know, we think that we're working so hard to achieve that end goal, but inevitably, you know, it does take it out of us. And therefore, if we keep going at that pace, it is going to stop our effectiveness at some point. And so if we can see how those practices actually sabotage the outcome we're working towards, and, you know, when you talk or hear from a lot of people, it's highly successful people, you know, the higher they go, the more they take time out to think and to look after themselves. And it's a really interesting equation. And I think if we can start to adopt those practices earlier on and be that person now, then we're going to be in it for the long run. It's going to be more sustainable. And, you know, just keep reconnecting with our purpose and why you set up your business and what you're there to achieve, because we do get down into the day-to-dayness of it, don't we?
We do. And look, we're very quickly, rapidly approaching our, I think, our final time, but we've got a question still from Carol, so we can take one more question from Carol, and I think then we might be able to wrap the session up.
Alrighty. Where's Carol?
Hi, Ruth. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great presentation. Thank you for tonight. My question is around, I view my career well-being quite separate to my personal well-being and my family well-being, and sometimes can feel quite conflicted between all of those. Is there a way to try and align those so that there's not so much confliction, particularly around family time and taking time out for yourself, like you've mentioned?
Yeah, I think, Carol, like going back to the values, like when you get clear on your values and you look, what you do is you link your values together. So it sounds like family and career are two important values, for example. And so linking, how does your career benefit your family? How does your family influence your career? Looking at both perspectives and just looking at why is your career important to your family and why is family time important to your career? And so you start to make all of those links between those values, and then you'll see how one helps the other and how having family time is important to your career. You know, switching off and setting those boundaries and all of that. So I think, you know, identify your values and then linking your values to see how they each benefit each other will stop some of that conflict. But the minute you get clear on your values, and one thing that, you know, it's a really important factor, because when we've got kids and families, quite often we feel that they need to be one of our top values, But at different times in our life, they might slip down the ladder and other things might be your top values. And that's why there's a conflict. So values work is just really important. So I would start by doing and honestly doing your values and seeing what the top 3 are. And that might be a bit of a aha moment. Tanya, can I quickly share my last screen? That was just a special offer to everybody. Can everyone see that? Oh, sorry. Did you see that? No? Okay, I'll just go again. Here we go. There we go. Can we see that screen now?
Yes.
So this is what I have put together during COVID. This was my big aha moment. And it's my Career Clarity program. And look, it helps people go through some of the exercises we've touched on briefly tonight to find out. And these are tools that I've actually used when I've been in a bit of a career crisis as well, you know, to get clear on your purpose, your values, your value proposition, and then work through any limiting beliefs that might stop you, you know, in your career or achieving the success you want. And then there's a career toolkit there as well, based on my experience to, you know, develop your resume, prepare for interviews, etc. So it's an online program, and the link, if you just go to my website, creatinghealthycareers.com/services, you'll be able to be taken through to that. And what I'm offering for Women in Innovation members tonight is that you'll get a free Zoom 1-hour career coaching session if you do purchase that program. So yes, I just wanted to leave you with that.
Okay, thanks so much, Ruth. Well, we're just a couple of minutes over time, but I think it was incredibly valuable session. I loved the fact that we need to understand that it has an impact on our family. I think we probably all know that, but to have that actually sort of spoken about and brought to the forefront for us, and that it also impacts our health on a cellular level, I think that's a really important connection for us to make as well. And the Ikigai tool and theory, I'm sure will be of benefit to everybody. So that brings us to the end of this evening's session on wellbeing. Thanks so much, Ruth, for sharing your insight and your experience. This topic has become clearly so important for everybody in these last few months. And finding your purpose in life is not always easy. But you have given us some great things to think about and to take away and work on. And clearly we could have spoken for many hours more on this topic. So whilst it's very strange not being able to see you and our audience and our community in person, we'd like to thank everybody for coming along this evening, for joining in the chat and the polls, and for being part of this second webinar in our 3-part personal development series that we're running with Women in Innovation. Our next session is next week with Layla Henderson on winning awards. So that will happen next Wednesday night. Please make sure that you all register for this session as it is filling fast. Please also keep an eye on your emails, because you will receive an evaluation form from us. And we really, really encourage you to fill this out. This is the way that helps us to improve our events for you, and we get to understand more about what you want to hear. In the meantime, please connect with us and our speakers online. Thank you all again, everybody. Take care, and we hope to see you all online next week for Layla's event. Have a great week. Cheers.
See you, everyone.
Thanks, Ruth.